I've done a lot of videos on UFOs and my UFO experiences, and on plasma as well. I've done a few videos on plasma, and I feel as though I just wanted to come back to this topic and give a deeper dive into my experiences around plasma entities and plasma life forms and organic plasma life forms, as Professor Robert Temple would call them. It manifests as plasma, and my experiences and my perceptions around these entities and these forms and these craft, right? And my perceptions around what these are. Now, I've got so many experiences that I've had with very unexplained at the time anyway, circumstances that now I look back on and I see that those craft, those beings were, for me now looking back at those experiences in hindsight, were plasma entities, plasma craft, and the utilization, most importantly, of plasma within this realm as a form of portal to look into this realm, like you would remote view. If you're aware of the remote viewing programs and remote viewing experience done by the alphabet agencies in the United States and probably in the USSR and all over the world, and now there's people that supposedly wove the internet that remote view. I feel as though a lot of the orbs, a lot of the craft, a lot of the plasma experiences that I've had have been over the years, well, I'll give you some stories in this video about my experiences, have been the utilization of plasma within this realm, or the utilization of plasma between realms, to use it as a portal to peek into this realm, into this frequency from another frequency. And that's why often you see faces and orbs in my perception, because they're actually, it's a form of awareness projected into this realm, and they're utilizing the orb as a plasma portal or looking glass to see into this realm and to remote view into this realm. As much as we would, when we don't see ourselves remote viewing into another realm or another timeline, another moment in time, the illusory time, or another moment in history, looking at another part of the galaxy, looking at a particular location, interstellar, wherever. We might, if we were able to see ourselves in a mirror, we'd be able to see that we're actually projecting our consciousness, our awareness, and our awareness of forms as plasma. And that's why some people, some beings, some sensitives can see our awareness perceiving into that moment. And often we'll look into the corner of a room, as various remote viewers have said, when they remote viewed a situation, someone within that room saw them, and maybe they appeared as a plasma, and they couldn't see themselves as being a plasma entity, but that individual who was sensitive in that space could see them as a plasma entity in the room. Because my feeling is, a lot of the experiences that I've had over the years that I would consider to now but then be UFO experiences are simply just me perceiving plasma entities, and of course, as I said before, awareness projecting itself as plasma into this realm, and basically, seeing me, or seeing where I was, or me being in a situation where it was moving through an area and perceiving the area. So I think one of the most profound moments in my life experience where I had a plasma, I wouldn't call it an entity, I would call it, now looking back at it in hindsight, a plasma field. Was it aware? I do feel as though it was aware. It was aware, and it had been activated there many, many times in this particular location. And me, Annette, and Aladdin activated this plasma concave dome-like structure with our presence, with our toning, with our intention. And that was inland, sort of northeastern area of Melbourne. I believe the people that live there, the First Nations people, are called Wurundjeri people. Wundgeri people. Wurundjeri people who live in that nation there, who've lived there for thousands of years. Their colours are on my arm. This is what this tattoo on my arm, including the Bachula, which is the southeastern people of Queensland and Australia, including this whale. And this whole tattoo relates to those three experiences I had, mystical experiences where I had interactions with levels of existence that were terrestrial and potentially between realms. So when Aladdin, I, and Annette were toning on this huge stump in this natural amphitheatre near St Andrew's Market, inland of St Andrew's Market, northeast in the forest, in the Dandenongs, back in 1997. This was in June 1997, I think it was. May, June 1997. When we were toning on this log, on this stump, Aladdin and I toning at each other, toning with our voices, toning, making tones through the octave, and Annette being in the middle of us. When this blue squiggle, like I consider that to be a plasma as well, popped out of Annette's skull, out of her crown chakra, and went up into, we activated Annette, so to speak. Aladdin and I were toning, even though we were toning together towards each other, she was in the middle. So she was the conduit of the energy because she was just standing there. And as a conduit for her, this is the power of this woman. She's an incredibly powerful woman, in my perception. We toned towards her, and when we toned towards her and we eventually finished, this explosion of blue plasma, like a squiggle, like on a heart monitor, beep, like a beep, you know, exploded at the top of her crown chakra and went straight up and hit this plasma, what became a crackling sound like lightning. This concave, hovering, humming, audible humming, concave dome that was transparent, that we could see, that was light blue, hovering over the entire amphitheatre. Now, my perception, now looking back at that, is that that was a form of plasma, a plasma concave field. Well, was it fully aware and conscious? Most probably and most definitely. And I believe that the people of that region, the Wurundjeri people, knew it was there. And when they came together, as Aladdin said, for corroborees, which are like meetings, dances, rituals, in that amphitheatre, they knew it was there and they created it, or they activated it themselves. And we, in turn, did the same thing, activated it. On the other side of the continent, at Redgate Beach in February 1998, I had an experience where I opened a portal through toning, and opening that portal, a plasma being came down, and it was neutral. It wasn't positive or negative. It was a neutral being, but that plasma being looked like a glowing, a beach ball sized being with tentacles coming off it, like you have in those glass contained fields of plasma when you put your hand on the glass surface and the plasma tendrils come to your hand, right? It looked like that, but with the tendrils coming out of it. And it wasn't glass, it was plasma, in my perception. This being came towards me while I was toning, and I created the portal for it to come through. I created this, it's not a fissure, but more like a entrainment between frequencies. And this being came from this realm into this realm via this tunnel that I've created of a coherence between these two realms in my perception now. And that being was a plasma being that came down and was curious to know what I was doing, and it was more curious about me. And it didn't come down directly towards me in a way that was like invasive. It stopped about halfway along this fissure that I'd opened between me and it, but me and this realm where it came from. As it came towards me, it stopped, and I could see it with my eyes closed. I could see it hovering there. And when I asked it to go back to wherever it came from, because it was scaring the shit out of me, it did so. It went back to where it came from, and the tunnel of light that it would come down, vanished. As I've said before in other videos, I thought I was looking at the moon, but I was facing towards the Indian Ocean, and the moon was rising behind me on the other side of the continent. I've seen other craft as well that could be related to the plasma. In 1997, in the Port Douglas at the wrap party for the Lord of the Rings, the Thin Red Line, the wrap party at the producers' accommodation, where me and some friends who'd been up all night partying were laying on the lawn of the producers of the film, the producer and producers of the film, where they were staying, very sneakily as extras, had gone to the producers' party, at the wrap party, and we know that we weren't welcome in the house, so we all lay on the lawn watching the sunrise over towards the Great Barrier Reef. When it was about 15-20 of us that saw this explosion of light in the sky, not near the sun, near the horizon, but back from the horizon, an explosion of light in the sky, like a full explosion that became back to a point, and out of that point came 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in a row, moving like that, triangular shaped craft that phased out of that light, phased out to the point where they became invisible, cloaked, and just went straight in a straight line towards the sunrise. To which Ram Adamides, one of my friends and one of the extras on the Thin Red Line, just quietly said, "Yep, they're out there," at which we all cracked up laughing, all of us, because we were just completely blown away by what we saw. And were those craft plasma craft? I don't know. I'm in complete congruence with Walter Bosley, though, the researcher and former military intelligence officer Walter Bosley, that 99% of the craft that we see are flown here. The flown here are from here, a military industrial complex. Black budget craft that we see, and the ones that we don't see, the 1% or even less than 1% are actually interdimensional or from another frequency band, and that's where the plasma comes in for me. The plasma entities, the plasma craft that I've seen, the experiences with plasma beings that I've had in my life, that denotes to me that's from another realm of existence, not potentially from another galaxy, potentially from this galaxy, or from another level of the frequency band of existence, but it could even be from here, but from within the Earth's crust, or from other areas of the Earth that we don't know about, pockets in the Earth where there are dimensional or frequency containers, where they exist, invisible to our senses, apart from our very subtle senses, and they pop in and pop out to our realm so we can perceive them. So many years later, I have to really scour through my memories because I've had some pretty wild ones. But many years later, when I began to do the CE5 work, with friends in the Wairarapa and Wellington region in 2020, which is Stephen Greer's Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind work, and began to learn the process of vectoring out and meditation from the heart space, and then visualizing your awareness, moving through what we term to be outer space, and then having interactions with craft that were literally, to me, plasma. They weren't nuts and bolts craft. Everything that I saw with my CE5 work was plasma. Everything. Looking back at it now, all the craft, all the awareness, And I had that feeling when I began to see these objects in space, whether I was actually visualizing and from my imagination what space looked like, or whether I was actually in a form of plasma itself by being in space, because potentially there is a premise to say that maybe space is plasma, and we're passing through it as the fourth state of matter. Plasma is 99.9% of matter is plasma, which is why we call it the fourth state of matter. Is still puzzling to me, as to many people. But if we're moving through space, which is plasma, and we see these beings or this awareness in space, in the plasma field we're moving through, and there's an electromagnetic repulsion because we resonate on different frequencies, and then therefore we become aware of each other because of the electromagnetic repulsion energy. So we become aware of each other, or we actually not physically, but we perceive each other through our awareness. All the craft that I saw, apart from one experience in the southern Wairarapa, where we had a CE5 weekend in a hut up in the Aorangi Ranges, about 20 of us. Apart from that experience, which was a story for another time, that was pretty crazy actually, but I'll tell you that story another time. Every other experience that I've had, the craft, now looking back at it with hindsight, was simply awareness, moving through plasma from other parts of the galaxy and interstellar, moving through. And then when we perceive each other in that plasma field, when we perceive each other, that's when I'd vector back to where I'd come from, my awareness had come from. So I'd vector back, I'd move my awareness back through the galaxy to where I was in Wellington region, and I would watch this plasma awareness follow me back to where I was. And that happened for me a lot. And as I became attuned to that process of doing that CE5 work, I would have, when I wasn't even doing the work, when I wasn't doing the going through the CE5 process, I'd have experiences where I have plasma craft. I would see plasma craft, I'd see plasma awareness, I'd see plasma entities, even when I wasn't doing this CE5 work. But through my meditation, I was sitting in my heart space, and being in that place, that resonant field created the coherence between myself, my awareness, and the awareness that I perceived. So there was a connection there that allowed for that field to be operating without me doing the work. But one of the craziest experiences I had with plasma beings, and the use of plasma as I said before, as a means to project your consciousness into a realm, was once when I had taken a very small dose. I mean, like maybe a little over a microdose. 0.4, it's not quite a microdose, is it? Between 0.4 and 0.8 grams of Wiriroa mushrooms in Wellington in 2020, and got up to Wrights Hill and Karori and was doing CE5 work up there one Friday night. And when I was vectoring out into the plasma field, which I will call deep space, interstellar space, I saw a craft. It was a circular light blue craft moving through the plasma field, and as it witnessed me, it basically it was right in front of me, and we were looking at each other. My awareness and this awareness, which I will call awareness, were looking at each other. And I moved back, and it followed me through the solar system back to where I was in Karori. And then when I was on the ground, my awareness was back in my body again. I looked up in the sky, and I saw this craft, this blue plasma circular spherical craft. It had edges looked more like a sun than an actual circle. The energies were the edges were blurred, but there were little tendrils coming off it. I heard this telepathic message that said to me, go home and go to bed. And I cracked up laughing. I thought to myself, what the fuck? This UFO, because at the time I considered it to be a UFO, just this awareness has told me to go back home and go to bed. So I laughed my ass off. I laughed my ass off. Drove back to my accommodation where I was living in Wellington and Berrenport. This is about 9:30, 9:45 at night. I went to bed. As I went to bed, I lay in my bed, and I was in that place between sleep and being awake. A very easily defined space, is like almost like being in that place of going like drifting off into sleep but being slightly awake. I felt this energy move across my duvet, and it crept up my duvet. And I could feel that. I could feel the electrical sensations over my body through my duvet. There were tingling sensations through my entire body, like whatever it was adhering to my own my biofield. My biofield was attuning to my biofield, and this entity's awareness, or this entity in the plasma field, moved across my body, and it read my biofield, and it knew that I was attracted to a certain individual, a woman in my life that I had a great attraction to. And then in that space between sleep and being awake, in that fertile space of creation, it manifested itself as that woman that I was, and I wouldn't say I was in love with her, but I definitely had a great love for her. I wrote a book for her, a dance called Dwaka. I've told the story before, so I won't go into detail. But that being manifested in that realm between sleep and being awake, etheric, subtle energy realm, in a plasma form. I look back at this now and say it was a plasma form, and my own plasma form within that realm, not in the physical sense, but in that realm, had a sexual connection for many, many, many hours. And that sexual connection, there was information relayed energetically through the biofield within that plasma realm, plasma energy. The biofields enmeshed, and there was information shared between myself and it as well. And in that realm, there was this transfusion of information. And I knew after this, about 4 or 5 in the morning, the energy began to dissipate and was gone. And I knew that what had happened has been a transmission between myself and this being, and an interaction, and that being had read my entire biofield in a way that it allowed it to understand my experience, what life was like here, what my experience of life was in this realm. And I was given information about where it had come from, what its life was like, what it looked like in that realm. And that, for me, that interaction took place in that plasma field rather than in a physical sense, because that was the malleable realm, the malleable field, the malleable condition where we could have that exchange without there being a physical interaction, because it's everywhere and it's ubiquitous, that being plasma. And then the being came back the next night when I was completely sober and did exactly the same thing. I said, no, thank you, not tonight. I've got a headache. And it slid away. It just moved off my field of awareness and never came back. But that was also a plasma experience for me. In that realm of plasma, my looking back at it now, I can see that the field of plasma is the interactive. I wouldn't call it I call it a realm, but I'm struggling to find the right words. Domain, realm, energetic field, expression, where that connection can be made, and that energy can be transferred across between realms, so to speak, frequencies. And then a couple of years later, during 2022, the summer of 2022, I went to Hokia Beach near Levin with a friend of mine, Grange Gordon, and who was painting a house up there in Levin, in the Horowhenua, North Island. And we had a bonfire on the beach because we couldn't go anywhere, because we could go to thanks to the vaccine passports in this country, we couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't go to a pub, we couldn't go to a cafe, we couldn't go out to dinner, we couldn't go to a restaurant. So we got takeout food, and we went down to the beach and had a bonfire. It was a beautiful night. And this was my favourite thing in the world to do anyway, is to go to the beach and have bonfires on the beach. I was pretty happy. So we went down to the beach, parked our 2 vans on the beach like this, like that kind of angle like that. My van, his van, parked up, fire in the middle, sunset, beautiful, massive bonfire, amazing spot, Hokia Beach, near the bin. And I went to take a piss during the night, because we were sitting around talking. I went to take a piss behind my van. And as I was behind my van, and the Kapiti Coast of Wellington is renowned, the Kapiti Coast near Wellington is renowned for seeing craft, and renowned for seeing UFOs due to the nature, as the author Bruce Cathy has written about. There's ley lines that go across between the islands, the North Island and the South Island, the Marlborough Sounds down the Kaikoura coast, go down the Kapiti Coast. So these craft propel themselves across these energetic lines and use them as a means of transport, and I guess fueling themselves and using the energy lines as a form of propulsion. So what I saw in the sky above me, I was taking a piss looking down. I had this urge to look up. I looked up, and when I looked up, I saw a flash, like a blue flash of light. And out of that blue flash of light came this triangular-shaped craft that was transparent to some degree, but had a swirling blue mist inside of it and coming off of it, right? It was swirling off, like gently, like a light fog coming off this triangular shape, and it was also moving within the shape as well. And it moved across the sky for about 3 to 4 seconds. I could see it. And this was no more than 300 to 400 feet above my head. It was very, very low in the sky. Very low. I said, and the light was so bright, it was lighting up over me when I was taking the piss. I was going, what the fuck? And I said to Grange, Grange, and he was like, what? I said, and then as I said that, the craft, the space in front of the craft was pulled tight. Like the stars above my head in front of the craft were pulled tight, like you would pull the fabric of the space above me, if you consider it to be fabric, was pulled tight in a line like that. And then this craft did this, like a rubber band being pulled like this, and it was snapped, and it was gone, and it vanished into that straight line, into that where it had actually taken the space in front of itself, I guess, in this, through its technological means, had pulled the space in front of itself and then fired itself through the space and disappeared into another realm, or moved forward, propelled itself forward, and was gone out towards the South Island. I said, Grange, did you see that? I was laughing at it. Did you see that? He's like, see what? I was like, oh, fuck. He didn't see it. But looking back at that now, what I saw, that was once again a plasma craft. That wasn't a solid, for me anyway, it wasn't a solid nuts and bolts metallic craft. That was a plasma craft. So I wonder if intelligences far greater than our own, perhaps potentially in our realm, potentially on our planet, potentially in our planet, in large catacombs, in large caverns, potentially, that are sharing our planet with us, or from other realms, other regions of the galaxy or interstellar space, utilize plasma and have got technology to create plasma craft, use plasma to remote view into our realm, as my experience says, and feels like to me to be a truth, that as we remote view, we become plasma. We utilize the plasma field, the plasma realm domain, the energy of the plasma field, which is 99.9% apparently of the universe, of what we see. We utilize that as a means to perceive, and when the other levels of existence, intelligence, utilize the same energy, the same field, as a conduit, as a medium to be able to perceive into this realm. They use plasma, and they come in plasma craft, plasma orbs, plasma beings. They can manifest in our realm as plasma beings rather than being solid in that sense. And it's a medium that is used for that purpose, to come into this realm. And that now, especially with the nature of what's happening energetically, those plasma beings, that plasma itself is now taking on form within our realm, and that we're going to see a lot more plasma entities, plasma forms, plasma events, and witness them, and gain a deeper understanding of what plasma is in our realm through its expression. And it's amazing. I'm watching a Dark Journalist and Dr. Joseph P. Farrell video on YouTube that talks about plasma scientists being murdered. I'll link that below this video as well, so you can watch it, because it's, to me, there's obviously a correlation happening here as we move forward towards 2030. Thanks for watching. I truly appreciate it. Mā te wā. I'll see you again soon.